To another subject matter, and we're taking a look at electricity power supply in Nigeria, and that's a subject matter that concerns every citizen of this country, from those who want to invest, for those who are already investing, to those who are into small businesses, to those who are into even governance. To you and me, the issue of electricity supply is critical if we must move forward as a nation, especially at the onset of another year, with goals being set and how we can go about achieving those goals. Now we have in the studio to talk with us on this subject matter, Dr. Emmanuel Onyejeose. Who is he? He's editorial consultant to the Pointer newspapers, Delta State. A very good morning to you, sir.
Very well, thank you. Good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Morning too. I'm glad to meet you all today this morning.
It's a pleasure. Okay, then.
Good.
Electricity power supply in Nigeria. I would like to feel your pulse on it.
Well, this is a very topical issue. Sometimes some of my friends, say they hate to discuss it because there appears to be no apparent solution being provided, even with the inauguration and inception of the National Electricity Regulation Commission, as well as the ECN, that is the Electricity Commission. There has not been any solution per se. So those of us who became so concerned about 10 years ago, we met in South Africa and we got affiliated to African Society of Alternative Energy. Okay. That is that the intention was, to see what alternative can we get since, the so-called fossil fuel electricity generation capacity and the giant hydro plant solutions are not providing any solution in any way. So that was what really spurred us now to look at alternative electricity solution, and that is popular solar power.
Okay, now before we talk about the solar power, we just want to feel your pulse generally on electricity generation in Nigeria.
That's right.
What's your take on it? Do you think it's okay? What are the bottlenecks?
The bottleneck, as I did try to mention before you called me in, is, for instance, the huge investment need focusing on fossil fuel. That is the old NEPA supply, and then also the giant size hydropower generation system.
Right.
Okay. It is nice, but it looks quite unethical, and in terms of green, clean energy, it doesn't provide it.
Right.
And talking about hydropower plants now, like the one we have, in those good old days, the Kanji Dam and all that. But if you get there now, from Suleja to Siroro, all flooded. More than 200 square kilometers have been flooded. So that is not a good pathway.
So
even
enough energy is not being generated.
That's right. And then the poor environmental impact increase.
Okay.
So we are losing, we are burning our candle on both ends. And well, the other aspects why the fossil fuel electricity generation is not convenient is the fact that the transmission, that is, even if the power is there,
right,
the transmission bottleneck across the country is not convenient, it's not efficient. Because you look at more than 10,000 square kilometers of transmission line, which we don't have the capacity to provide. And so even if the generation solution, the electricity cannot reach your home and consumers. And because also we agree, because of the need to get this power supply, which we don't get, there is also the adverse effect of unhealthy billing and regular increase in tariffs, which is a vexed question. All of us are aware of the current tariff now, which the Deputy Labour Minister, Brother Keyamo, said there was no any increase, that people can manage, but that the re-import is that, according to what he explained, is that they change bandwidths of their type of consumption pattern and my own and your own. And in this case, we look at the industrial users and the poor users that are just, one-room apartment.
Right.
It had no television, it had no fridge and all that, or air conditioner. Right. So they have to, bridge this gap. So that is just, the saving grace now. Otherwise, they could have mass protest once again.
Exactly. Late last year there was increment, and
they said there was no increment.
2021, you're talking of increment.
Exactly.
Right.
But don't you think that with the recent there's a recent beat on electricity and metering that very soon there will be enough meters.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that as at now there's a metered billing system.
That's right, still much there.
So don't you think with more meters there will be improved
distribution?
That is only another palliative, treatment or solution of the anticipated problem I want to solve. One, the 11 discos are not interested, per se, in installing the meters.
Okay.
So when the central bank, saw that, dilemma, they said, okay, don't worry, we will request the central bank to provide the funding to an alternative supplier, and you get ahead. I mean, the disco people, you get ahead with generating and supplying all the needed. But even at then, not everybody. It's still a marginal increase of this meter, even when they sorted out and improved on manufacturing in the country. But even if there is improved metering of the housing, where are the power plants? Where are the power capacity? So that even if you give me the meter now, I still don't have the supply. The other aligning problem there is that the metering system, it doesn't really favor the disco people, because they want to rely on the continued estimation of the bill.
Right.
For one thing, it doesn't cost them anything. They will say, okay, we don't have to come to your house or read your meter to know. But always we are just paying 3,000 naira every month. I don't have 3,000 naira every month. I know you would not like. Even if you have the money, why must you pay 3,000? Yes. How many Nigerians can afford to pay 3,000 naira estimated bill? So even if you have such money, you are aggrieved that it is costly, it is irregular, because you didn't have the light. And now they still want you to be paying 3,000 naira minimum.
So can we actually say that
it's a big challenge?
Yes.
Yes, we know the electricity power is a big issue, and we also fault those in control of it. Now, what about the individual? Some say that some consumers have actually compromised the meter. Sometimes they do a bit of adjustment. Now you find those the meters, they have it on the pole, because before now they
that it
not really move. So they compromise it. At times there's also theft, around the transformer. So don't you think these are issues why the supply is actually very low?
Yeah, I want to make the point blank that if there is, marginal increase in electricity supply, consumers will be willing and able to pay fair tariffs.
Okay. So they won't compromise.
They won't compromise. And the other issue is the technology. There are 3 types of meter. One is the one that is
meter.
Yeah. Okay. One is the one that is mounted at the high pole, and the other 2 that we originally made is the second class of it now is digitalized, so you cannot even manipulate it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's all mounted.
Which one are we using right now?
So it's only the high technicians who are intent, probably their own staff,
right?
Yeah, that could manipulate it. I can't even manipulate it myself. I see the digital.
Which one is being distributed now that we have one of those? Is it digital?
Well, even the one that mounted on top of the pole, you can be manipulated, but it's not easy for them to mount or monitor, because one thing is you mount. What you mount, you cannot easily let the marketing officers now to monitor, because it's high up there.
Okay.
So that is not even convenient. But you see, the idea of, the disco insisting on this mandatory payment, you're asking me to pay for, materials or power that I didn't get?
That's actually the concern of
I wouldn't be happy. So the tariff
is consistent.
Yeah, if the power is consistent, everybody will be willing.
Yes.
Everybody is willing in the sense that the consumer now knows, instead of my buying generator, engine oil, the generator set and all
like
that.
Alternatives.
As if as the first original alternative.
Yes.
I will pay my bill regularly, provided there is at least increase, I wouldn't say mathematics, at least better services condition. I will be willing to pay, say 2,000 naira or whatever. So the issue of payment, consumers are no fools, because they will compare and contrast the generator itself and the high fuel prices of powering the generator. Because I can give you a generator and you don't have enough money to fuel everything, because the fuel prices also has increased.
All right, we're discussing with Dr. Emmanuel Onyejeose, who is into electricity, alternative power provision for our country. And just getting the year 2021 off, to restart now, there's a time where we have to take action. We're not going to rely 100% now on the usual providers of electricity, talking about BEDC in our own the national.
They don't have the technology, they don't have the working capital. That is the basis of the problem.
What alternative would you say that would be readily available for Nigerians to adopt and work with?
Yeah. That brings us to what I was talking about, the need to empower our society with cheaper and cleaner, environmentally sustainable solar panels.
Okay.
Which the solar panel is an opportunity to tap the energy from the sun, which is inexhaustible.
Right.
Clean, both in utility and in terms of supply. There is no any type of technicality. You attract the power of the sun, which is inexhaustible, as we are saying, and then it guarantees regular supply, like 24-hour supply, depending on your capacity to install. After all that, because it can't be free anyway. Any good thing cannot be free. And then it guarantees environmental cleanliness. That's why we give it the name Green Power Solution.
Right.
There is nothing like fossil fuel emissions anymore, because you look at the energy used now, say in transportation, which is taking more than 35% of energy generation capacity. So by the time we are able to substitute diesel gases for our transportation, say come this targeted 2030 with electric vehicles and all that, we should have been very close to zero energy emission, green energy emission.
You're coming across as an environment ambassador.
Clean environment, and that is a plus. And then guaranteed. We are not talking about the use of battery power. We are talking about the solar panel mounted correctly and accurately on your roof.
How available are they? How available, how accessible to SMEs, for instance, who are actually the driving force of economies now, especially in Nigeria? How available?
I know for sure, because the awareness were created in the last 10 years of conversion for greener energy solution. The most SMEs have now seen the need for enriched capacity, at least to guarantee almost 24 hours of power supply using, say, a minimum of, say, 3 solar power on their roof, and they get it. And they enjoy increased productivity and profitability. So they will try as part of their generation capacity installation, including this energy bill instead of relying on the fossil fuel, we cannot guarantee them any profitability. So they will really try to find out the installation, capacity in terms of you get, your equipment, and you build in this solar power generation equipment to power your equipment. And so they will be ready to do that because it will guarantee their productivity. So that's the way we look at it.
That's true. What about major industries? Let's take that broadcasting service, for instance. To what extent, how significant would you say this solar energy will be useful for us?
That's right.
To drive big industries.
Yeah. Sometimes when we talk about, the need for migrating from this fossil fuel that have proved inefficient, we looked at what the SMEs we have talked about a few moments ago, that we now graduate forward to look at the benefit, larger scale, users, will benefit. In this case, we look at what bigger industrial organizations are doing worldwide. Some of my friends, who are critics about, this new concept are saying, do you think, the solar power thing will be able to generate heavy industry? I said, if you go to the US, the General Motors, which had 25 stories at the head office in the Detroit office, they don't use any fossil fuel anymore. So that guarantees you that the whole of the building, the walls and the roof are all solar plated so that guarantees you enough capacity to power your plant. So that is the way we look at it.
Domestically, bringing it home, a lot of people believe that the solar energy or the alternative source of power supply, which is the solar shades, cannot actually power a lot of things at
appliances.
home. Appliances at home. For instance, your fridge, your AC, and of course the electric cooker, as it were. Now, they just feel that the only thing it can offer is probably a little bit of light, and then you can charge your phone a bit, and then they tell you you have to get a fan that would, fit into the capacity of what you have.
They
now see that it's actually more expensive, unlike the one that is convenient, that going to get fuel, however it is, and then you power your jet. So
which is convenient? Let's get the other line. Convenient in what sense?
Some feel that, well, it's easier to just go get the fuel, and if you put the fuel in the generator, for instance, you can power your fridge, your AC will work, some other bits that you need to work. But if it's just this one, the solar, you're very careful. Turn off it's as good as you're using you're using very low generator, the small generator.
Small capacity.
Yeah, so you AC. You're careful this doesn't go off. You need to get batteries and that. It's a little bit cumbersome. What's your take on it, really?
Okay, let's look at that. Sometimes there's misassumption, misinterpretation of the concept of solar power. Solar power is just not, battery power storage. Okay. It is not quite like, generator set that you have to start looking for the type of generator capacity you want and are able to fuel constantly. What we are talking about when we are talking about cleaner solar power electricity generation, we are looking at buying of solar power magnetic panel that attract the power of the sun.
Okay,
it magnets the power of the solar, and then trap it in good dry cell batteries, not any of the, not car battery, not some of these adulterated Chinese battery. You put it there, and when we talk about this battery, a clean battery power
How affordable is the battery? Is it
Well, we are not here to talk about money, but you don't, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about advertisement.
We're not talking about money, but it's also good for us to know. It's also good for us to know if that battery is what one can just afford easily. So we're not tagging money, but is it something you can just afford easily? And what kind of batteries are we looking at? Is it a deep cycle battery, or the car type of battery, or the tractor battery? I have a lot of batteries. And I don't know. I think they're very expensive as it were. So if don't you think there should be a concept whereby you just trap the sun, into the solar, and then you connect it directly to it? Must there be a battery in the middle?
Well, thank you very much. Now the issue is this. When we're talking about, solar battery, we are talking about the deep cell battery. We are not talking about car batteries. We are not talking about power you can store just like that. We are talking about the generation capacity that attracts the power of this land and retain it in this type of battery we have talked about.
So without the battery, you would get it into the...
No, it's just like...
It's just the solar battery house use. That's it now.
That's right.
So without the battery, you can't even if you have the solar sheet, it won't work.
No, it can't work. Now let's get this thing in
perspective.
In a cycle distance. Now, if you have no money for breakfast,
okay.
Now it's okay. This evening I had to cook the meal that I will not be able to. I will remain for tomorrow's breakfast.
Okay.
The balance food I have here is the one I will warm up for my breakfast tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Because I'll check my pocket anyway. So what we do now in this solar concept is that you attract the energy from the sun from this panel you have mounted, an adequate of such power panel capacity in relation to your detailed power requirement of your house.
Right.
So when we are attracted with enough of the solar panel, good ones anyway, not the adulterated ones again, just like we talked about the adulterated battery type or car battery. Right. When you are attracted, you use your charger to trap it and retain it in and store it in the battery. And you have your 24-hour generation capacity.
All right. A lot of enlightenment is still going on.
That's right.
As far as this is concerned. But I was in Israel for a while, and there I noticed that there were no power generating sets anywhere, and to a large extent, provision of electricity or power supply there was via solar.
That's right.
Now, as I speak to you, I have in my compound some solar lights that were installed, and after a period of time, they were meant to last for so many years. They faded off, even though the sun shines every day.
Okay.
Enough for them to trap
the energy bulbs.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a question.
Now, what I want to ask Dr. Onyejeose is this. These batteries would like to know more about their capacities and whether or not solar generating panels are uniform globally. Is there a standard for them?
Okay, that's a big one.
That's a good one. Wow. We have talked about the first and viable classification of battery, which we said is deep cycle battery has to be.
Okay.
And you cannot be the adulterated one, some of them which are standard globally. They are standard globally. That got nothing to do with the Chinese, pack that can easily just drain out in just 2 years. But this type of battery, deep cycle battery we are talking about now, is the one that when you install with the capacity of, you install the panel, is done to last no less than 5 years. If you buy any battery and it doesn't last up to 5 years, you know that you have been ripped off. You didn't get the correct battery. Wow. So that is the first assumption of what a good battery is.
Because I once had I once had 4 deep cycle batteries like you mentioned.
Right.
The slim, yellow, long, attached to my 3.5 inverter, KV inverter. And the idea is for it to be there for a long time, at least 5 years.
5 years, like you mentioned.
But you know what happened to my batteries? They opened up after a year. And they were very expensive.
Okay.
Talking about, I'm not even talking about the inverter itself. You know, and funny enough, the inverter is still in place because it's actually made in Nigeria inverter with Nigeria copper. You know, Nigeria copper is the strongest all over the world. Yeah, so it's not that the foreign one that will pack up, but my battery packed up. Battery is rather packed up, but the 3.5 kV is still there. And now my worry is, it could be that I got batteries that have been used before. It could be that they're not new batteries. But why would they open up? When I mean open, they opened up on the side, like opened up, you know? So what happened? I mean, what
could have happened?
Yes.
Let's look at it analytically.
And what can one do to actually get very good batteries? You know, what should we look out for to know that this battery is actually good, is not?
Brings us to the subject matter of standardization.
Yeah, we look at standardization, but first of all, we are going to look at the three possible problem issues which we have to clarify here and now. Okay. One is that while you may not have had enough voltage of the number of panels you may have installed. That's problem area number one, and that is why we insist on before installation, a good engineer should have audited your power need to know exactly how many panels you will need. Point two is the clarification that inverters are not electricity generation, equipment. And you cannot stock what you don't have. You have not generated enough capacity of power, and you want to store it now in your solar power, good battery or no good battery. In other words, as we in our example before, if you never cooked enough food to last for tomorrow morning, you will not have breakfast. Okay. In other words, you must generate enough capacity to be installed in either in your inverter or in your deep cycle battery.
Okay.
So if you make a mistake in any of these 3 points, you're on your own. You're on your own. So we have to get the point. So we have to get the solution.
The point that you made. How do we identify the batteries that are good batteries, that are not adulterated batteries?
That's right.
We need to know.
So that is why we have qualified technicians to develop your power need. Because if I'm a poor man, living in one room, face me, I face you. Maybe I don't even have a refrigerator.
Thank God I know you're not a poor man.
That's right,
Just well.
Yeah. I need, my radio, my TV, and my 10 lighting points. Right. That's what I need. I don't need much more. That's the concept of this power auditing. How much power do I need? How much power can I afford?
Right.
So when I have been told now that it's only just 3 panels I need, and I need just 5 kVA, I just pay for that with the battery, a clean battery as we said, with or without what do you call that?
Is it what?
The power,
battery, the panel, inverter.
The inverter, the inverter thing we don't know. If you have enough generating capacity of these panels itself, and a good battery, and the battery charger that I tried using, you are on. Because the generating capacity has been well installed, well attracted, and installed on your deep cycle battery.
In other words, after auditing your point of power needs in the house, if it's underestimated, it could affect your battery.
Of course, it bought the battery.
Right. So proper auditing
has to get
done in the first place, and then the commensurate.
That's right. Because I could know that as in our analogy with the food, with yesterday's food and this thing. If you cooked enough food and you didn't stock it well, by tomorrow morning it's sour. So this type of souring concept is what we talk about.
Does it also until the type of wires you'd have to run in your home. Is it the same kind of capacity you have with electricity that you'd also run with the solar
power supply?
Because I know at that time, when I installed mine, the guy was like, no, I have to run another, wires with different capacity. I have to run it alongside what he installed, with the changeover and everything. So I got different wires, so many of it, for them to run. And because they said we'd have to make different points for your energy bulbs and type of. He now said the energy bulb would use. They have different watts. To actually fit with a 3.5 kV. Then he said that I can actually use the AC if it's not. There's the kind of AC actually recommended as well. But now, so I'm thinking, now some homes, they don't even have to run wires. So what could have happened differently from what I did and what is actually obtainable now in terms of having you run another wire in your house, besides the one you have, with the normal electricity supply?
I think that some of the mistakes, some of these half-baked, technicians, will say, just give me some money, I will put in solar power in your house. One, there was not this energy audit to know exactly what capacity generation you are putting in. And then before you talk about this variety of suitable energy-saving globes, you should have gotten, the power generated and stored in your battery, and the complementary battery and the charger, the regulating charger that attracts, the power, from the sun to the panel and then to your battery. So when they are missing gap in any of these aspects, for instance, the idea now of the cable, the linking cable from your charger to your battery, you are not doing anything. There is no any guarantee that you are going to have.
So how can you run with the word alternative power supply?
Yeah.
Alternative power supply, the green power solution. How can you run with that conveniently? Let's say my neighbor has electricity 24 hours and now I'm on, the green energy 24 hours. Do you think I can sit, I'm comfortable with it that yes, I don't care about what my neighbor, even if the light is as bright as anything, I'm not looking at my neighbor, I have the solar and I'm good with that. Now can we confidently say that we're comfortable with the green energy and then you're okay with it, you're not looking at electricity at all, or you might just want to have another bit of it that, okay, I think I want the solar to rest. Let me charge connect to my neighbor. So how, we keep saying alternative, how strong is that word alternative? Can we confidently say, yeah, I'm okay with the solar, I don't need electricity no more, even if it gets improved over
Not
time?
from the national grid.
No, you see, that is some of the misconception people don't really want to understand fully. There is nothing like supplementary power if you have enough power for it. In other words, if I'm well fed, with my rice meal, I don't need to go and eat another egusi soup and all that.
Yes.
In other words,
I think I like that.
yeah, you should get the right power capacity that you need. You don't have to go borrow, power from, this lots of cable, because the more of this cable that you collect from that side, collect from the other side, be self-sufficient with the solar power capacity you will need. Now, we have just talked about, alternatives. We have been talking about solar power. There is also the green power, which all this we call the green energy pathways. With the wind too, just like in the sun, you are attracted with enough of the fan, in a cross, and you can even have in large, community generation capacity.
Is that actually, that one is not even popular. Is it solar that?
As in not in Nigeria
yes.
at the moment. Not popular here.
That is why we are not getting our point right then.
Right.
In the whole of the from Katsina to Sokoto, they are all empty land. Like in Sweden, where you will put in power, wind power there, fans there for almost 10 kilometers away. Power isn't. And you get rapid, well-balanced power supply.
Okay. Now,
So,
Dr. Onyejeose, a few things come to my mind as we speak. There are a few things you have said. You said something about half-baked electricians who may have fixed
let me fit it for you.
the solar power system
That's right.
in a house. And then we've also talked about adulterated batteries.
Exactly.
Okay, you've mentioned that. And even in the course of talking, you also mentioned that some of these batteries could be from China. Okay, that's like casting.
They could be good technicians.
However, as a nation, to what extent would you say there is standard in terms of this provision of alternative power supply using the solar system? One, do we have expertise for the installation? Is it being standardized as to the kind of panels, apart from the kind of panels, the kind of batteries that are brought into Nigeria? Or are you saying that they are developed here? These are things that Nigerians want to know before they go into it, so that they don't go into it and it is a futile exercise.
That's right. We will start by looking at what the Nigerian government under the Ministry of Science and Technology has done. They built a solar power manufacturing plant in Abuja, and I have been there on more than 6 occasions to see what they are doing. The solar panel they are manufacturing is quality style, and they have to import cells with which, they make up, the power to attract the energy from the sun. And they also have agents supplying them battery, because they don't just sell this quality Nigerian-made panel manufactured in Abuja. They also get well standardized battery authorized by SON, that's an organization of Nigeria. When you have all this, capacity building, you are sure of the best material for your installation to guarantee you 24 hours of electricity generation and utilization.
Okay, we do know that the world is a global village as it relates to technology, and the pandemic recently brought that to the fore, because a lot of people had to do online learning, and some fathers or parents are like, oh, how do I get this working? I need to get this phone for my son and all that. How do I get this data working? Which is the best data? So they became all aware of that. Now let's look at the relevance of the green power solution to a digital economy, because we're going to embrace that. However, it is 2021, 2023. We'll be talking about
this decade.
Yes, that's just it. So, how relevant is the green power solution or the solar bits, to digitization? This 2020 and of course the years ahead.
Well, that is why I really love, in love with what the ECN, that is Electricity Commission of Nigeria, they have installed monitoring capacity at the University of Nigeria, Sokoto, and Bauchi, in fact about 6 universities now, where they monitor some of these manufacturing plants, assessing not just solar power or solar power from the sun or the solar panel itself. They are also looking at the quality of biochemical energy generation from plants. And they are also looking at the wind power. They are also looking at hydropower from thermal plant. All these are combined aimed at full utilization of enough generation capacity to make sure that when and if we are able to clearly get away from the fossil fuel plant, which have not been able to serve our ever increasing need, there will be self-sufficient in all aspects of different generation sources using this green energy plant capacity that guarantees environmental cleanliness. So that is why we called it green energy alternative solution. So I think that if the Federal Ministry of Power can regulate guidelines on non-expensive grids, that instead of spending lots of money to put on your grid, from here to Kaura to attract energy, you just each community set up a solar power or wind power generation capacity with less than 1/4 of the generation capacity, and then the cost of the cables in your grid line. Or say like the Benin Electricity now, if they have the technology and the willingness to power and partner with companies in their investment capacity and say, okay, we are not going to wait supply of cables, from our generating companies. We use our own mini grid when the solar power, say, based as ASABA supplying, say, the whole of Onyejeose with cheaper, smaller expenditure on the cable lines now, which we call, mini grids. So that solves our problem this way.
All right, thank you very much. From what you just said, we're looking at having something like the solar electricity generating hub.
That's right.
From community to
That's
community.
Right.
That's what you've just suggested.
Yeah.
Right, we're actually looking forward to that. We're looking forward to that day.
I hope we can.
24 hours and have full electricity supply to run our businesses, to run our different organizations. We're looking forward to that day. And we hope to have you here soon.
Well, you see,
I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Dr. Emmanuel Onyejeose, editorial consultant to Pointer Newspapers, Delta State, electricity power supply in Nigeria. We take a takeaway from you just before you leave.
Thank you very much. Well, I think that it had been well said. The need has really come up stage now that we need mini grid, community electricity generation plan.
Right.
And I'm also facilitated to know of the Delta State Civil Service, the head of service has approved now the type of cooperative, empowerment where people will pay some money in relation to their need and to get power supply in their home. I think that's a good starting point.
Right.
Okay, that's a good one.
Thank you. And thank you again, Dr. Emmanuel Onyejeose.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Morning Rider is it on Delta Television, the People's Pride. We're getting to the final moment of the ride today, but we'll be right back.